Welcome to Confessions of an Implementer, a podcast by Talent Harbor. We share unique stories of implementers and the companies they've transformed to give you a rare glimpse into the successes and the challenges of the system in action. I'm your host, Ryan Hogan. Let's jump in. Hey, joining me on the show today, we've got Ali Wendt. We had a conversation all about personal lives and how to either implement EOS or EOS-like framework into a family unit. And it was an incredible conversation. We talked about the accountability chart and how they apply the accountability chart. So generally in business, an accountability chart is about the three core functions. And so you've got operations, you've got sales and marketing, and then you've got finance. And it was so interesting to hear her talk about how they implement the accountability chart into their household. And so they've got mommy duties and daddy duties, and they've swapped out sales and marketing for relationships and the management of those relationships. They've set up scorecards. They've put goals together. And so I think you'll just, if you're searching for how to better orient or organize your personal life so that you can get what you want to achieve and accomplish your goals, this is the episode for you. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy. You are, one of the things that we talked about during the discovery call that we had was this notion of bringing EOS or EOS-like principles into your personal life. And so you are in business with your husband?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, and you guys run kind of EOS as like a lifestyle. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, we do. Yeah. We have our business coaching practice called Wake Coaching. And that's what we do EOS implementation through, is that business. And then we also have, it's a franchise, but we have a gym that we just opened about 5 months ago. And so we do that together along with my mom and dad, actually. So that's a little bit of a joint venture there. And then we also own a vacation rental back in Wisconsin, where we moved from. We're here now in Utah. We've been here about a year and a half. And then we have 7 kids and 3 dogs and a cat. So we have a lot that we manage. And so we manage it all through EOS, every single business, including our home.
That's incredible. You know, usually when I tell people I have 4 kids, like their jaws drop, and it's like, I guess that's a very, I don't know. I don't know why it's abnormal, but evidently like having
kids. It's a large family though.
It is, but I'm sure like you get that way more than I do. Like jaws are probably on the floor instead of just like confused looks.
The funny part about it, we say, is we used to get that when we lived in the Midwest, but now we live in Utah, the land of large families, and so we're like run of the mill here. Nobody cares.
There you go. Is that why you moved? It was like, we just can't take these looks anymore, so we're just gonna go to Utah.
Want to feel normal. Where are there homes that are big enough for all of us? No.
And so this notion of bringing EOS, so it sounds like you've got a lot of things going on. You've got the coaching or implementation practice. You've got a gym that you just opened, which it sounds like you're in business with not only your husband, but maybe some other immediate family members. That's we should talk about that as well. Then you've got a rental property, and you also bring EOS into your personal life. So like, what does that look like to bring that system into like how you operate personally versus how you operate professionally?
Yeah. So we have like we've brought ourselves through the full implementation process when it comes to every aspect, every business, as well as our personal lives. So we use level 10 meetings on a weekly basis together. And when we have our level 10, like kind of everything's included, which is sometimes difficult. Like we're moving from like, how do we deal with this schedule this week and juggling all the kids, and this person needs to be here and there and all the things. to like, what do we need to do to make sure our vacation rental is operating smooth? So it's a lot of different topics, but it is a place where we're really addressing all aspects of our life. So we use the level 10 agenda every week. And then we've completed our VTO for everything as well. And everything's kind of included in that same VTO. So we have all of our goals for our vacation rental, for the gym, for our coaching business, as well as our personal lives, all kind of in one place under one VTO. So we've created that. And then we do our quarterly meetings and our annual planning, and everything comes along for the ride. We just recently had kind of a special meeting that we had to schedule to really review the accountability chart. And that included like an accountability chart for our house. Because if there's not one person owning like vehicle maintenance or laundry or grocery shopping or whatever, like things will just fall through the cracks. And so we have to get that systematic about it and that detailed, but it feels good to us. We absolutely love using the system for all aspects of our life.
And do you have core functions of the household? So when you talk about the accountability chart, and we put this in business, you think all businesses have three primary core functions. You've got finance, you've got operations, and you've got sales and marketing. And then obviously from there, you can start to kind of modify, but fundamentally, like those three always have to be there. When you think about that in terms of a household, like how do you think about that in terms of core functions?
So that was like a funny subject. So sales and marketing ended up being more of like the relationship management aspect of our home, whether it's like, are we traveling back home for the holiday, or are we inviting people over? Do the kids have what they need in terms of just a support network, people around them, activities to engage them? It all became like very relational, but that's an aspect of managing a home where it's like friendships, family members, all of that. So that's what sales and marketing became for us. And then there were kind of like two different operation seats, and we were laughing because we were just like, we don't know what to name these. So they were mom ops and dad ops, and split between me and up. Yes. But dad ops had all of like the, lawn care and repairs and maintenance and vehicle maintenance. And he got laundry, which was great, and kind of just like some of that stuff. And then mom ops was more like meal planning and grocery shopping and decor and some of the stuff that's more like, making our home and space beautiful. Mom ops, dad ops. Yep.
And is this something that's constantly evolving? Like, and you're the first person that I've talked to that has looked at it like this. I know there's a lot of people that have brought EOS-like principles and maybe kind of their own version of it into their personal lives. But to hear you talk about it, like, this is fascinating. When you think about the accountability chart and mom ops and dad ops and trading sales and marketing for relationships, is this something that you both got right the first time out of the gate? Or is this something that every quarter when you come together for a quarterly pulse, like you're constantly reevaluating kind of those 3 to 5 major roles in each core function bucket?
Yeah. No, it is so evolving. It has changed so much from over the past year. And one thing that's been really interesting is Jeff and I's roles together as visionary and integrator. So we both, that's a spectrum. It's not like I'm fully visionary, I'm fully integrator. You have people that are like that, but it's actually very much more of like a spectrum, or you have a little bit of both. And so the interesting aspect of that especially is our shift in like the relationship that we've had, where Jeff has been squarely in the visionary role, like in a lot of the businesses that we're in, as well as at home. Like I look at him like he's the leader of our home, and I want it that way. But as things have shifted with business, just getting right people in the right seats and going through seasons, we've really shifted. He's jumped much more into operational roles, and I've taken a lot more of the visionary lead in some of them. So it's just been really interesting to see with seasons of life, with stressors, with the mix of the team that you have, or the nature of the business that you're leading, how those things can really shift, and why it's important to continually be looking at your accountability chart and treating it as a living document rather than like it's been decided, and just assuming that it's going to stay the way it is and that people are going to stay the right fit for their seat forevermore. Like, that's certainly not the case, and it isn't within even personal lives too. So yeah, it's been an interesting, and I think too, we just didn't get it right away. Working together as a couple is very different than just being who you are, like, independently. Where I think like you really need to figure out the right mix and complement of, each other's strengths and natural tendencies, what you really love to do. Like, we both might really love doing something, and in a different setting, I would lead in that manner, but he's actually better than I am. So I'm going to defer to him and let him lead in it, even though I'm capable, if that makes sense. So it's been this interesting process of like figuring out how to dance together in all of it.
Interesting. And when you talk about the idea of like constantly looking at this, constantly evolving, like, do you think there's ever a time in which the accountability chart is kind of perfect and it's just kind of minor tweaks? Because as you talk through this, what's fascinating is it reminds me of implementing EOS in business. Like, I remember when we first self-implemented at Hunt to Killer, and then it was a complete transformation. 2 years later, we went out and got an expert implementer, Margaret Dixon out of Boulder, shout out. And she was like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" And so like the company went through 2 transformations in 3 years. But what was interesting is like it does take that 3 to 6 months for it to start clicking. And once it clicks, like, you can kind of just make little iterations. And so you spoke a little bit about, out of the gate, it was a little rocky. And then it got to a place of where now, like, the seasons and skill sets and just kind of where people are. Do you think that this is something that is always evolving and it's just minor tweaks constantly? Or do you think there's a place where it just all kind of fits, it's clicking, and it's perfect?
I think you can definitely hit strides where you feel really like solid in the role that you're in. Like, you've learned about yourself a lot and you understand yourself so much more in terms of what your strengths are, what you really love and are passionate about. So I think there can be like these really nice, long, calm seasons in life. Absolutely. But for us, like, one example of something that totally impacted our accountability chart was with our gym. We had a general manager in place, and then he left pretty quickly. And so Jeff was our visionary. I was the integrator. Then we had a general manager. Jeff had to jump into the general manager role. And being so involved in the daily operations and really being kind of like in the weeds and on the ground, he couldn't see like high level the way he needed to in a visionary role. And so we started having these conversations. I'm like, hey, this is an issue. Like, we really need to, like, I started seeing so much more clearly than he did. And it was just because of how involved and in the weeds he was. Not that he's not capable of it, but just that kind of happened. And so we're like, all right, we need to shift. I have a different vantage point and the necessary vantage point to really fill the visionary role for right now. And so that's where I'm saying, like, seasons in life, different things, it just can really impact it. And so when there's a major shift in the organization, it's just so important to make sure, like, do we still have the right structure and are we still in the right seats?
Your story there reminds me of times where we would make decisions, and we all believed that they were the best decisions, and maybe they were the right decisions. And what always struck me was the feedback or the pushback that we would get from the broader team. But short-sighted is the wrong word, because short-sighted could have a negative connotation. So I don't mean short-sighted as in like coming from a place of ignorance as in stupidity, not ignorance as far as lack of knowledge, because it was a lack of knowledge. And it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I kind of always attributed it to like, that's the level that person was in, and not that it's their full capacity, but that's their level, and that's where they're kind of at in life. And one thing that you just brought up, which is fascinating to me, is it has nothing to do with like their level in life or where they're at professionally. It has to do with, you said vantage point. So like if they had the same vantage point that you had, that they would make decisions. And the example you just brought up is incredible, because you know that he's a visionary, you know that he's capable in that role, but once he had to get into the weeds, like he had a different perspective. It's a really good example.
Yeah. And it's just a level of duality that it's like, I don't think it's a realistic expectation for someone to have and really be doing both things well. So, yeah.
You talked a little bit about the independence, and that's something that I wanted to talk about, because it's something that I've been working on a lot lately. I've been lovingly calling it the quest. And Hunt to Kill or Sold in January of this year, and so now I'm on my quest. And a part of this quest, a part of this new journey is talking to amazing people like you, and just kind of seeing where all of these things go. And a part of this is studying on like setting personal goals and personal values, understanding your why. And so really kind of EOS like principles, but applying that to me personally and also independently, like understanding my values. So not my values from a joint perspective, but my values from a personal perspective. How do you reconcile that? So when you think about how you've implemented kind of EOS into your personal life and into the marriage and into all the businesses that you have together, how do you think through your own goals and your own values? I'll leave it with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually really challenging, because especially when it comes to like our own values, those are kind of layered on top of core values that have been handed to us as a part of a franchise system with both EOS and the gym. And so there's things where it's like, yeah, how do I kind of like reconcile me personally, what my values are with the business that I'm running? How do we layer these things on top of one another? That's actually just been really challenging, to be honest. And I don't know that we have it perfectly down. But one thing that I think like is really important is, and why we love having EOS as a part of like, we bring our personal lives into it, is because I think like we tend to separate out, like, these are my personal dreams. You know, I want to be really healthy. I want to have these experiences. I want to travel. Like, these are all very personal goals that we might have. And then we have goals for our business. And we set all of these really aggressive goals for growing our business and what we want to do with it. And we're never like bringing the two together and seeing like, are these going to work together, or are they completely competing? And so when we have done like our VTO for our businesses as well as our life, everything is all included in it, because we're like, one should not sacrifice the other. And we want to make sure that these are all coming along for the ride and like supporting one another, rather than feeling like, well, we set these goals for, you know, growing our business. And so then I wasn't able to maintain my health like I wanted to, because we were just running at a crazy pace, or we never traveled like we wanted to. And so for me, a way to kind of like reconcile the two is to make sure that we're addressing all of them together, and that there's some sort of harmony, which is a really hard balance to try to achieve no matter what. But like, how are you ever going to achieve it if we're not kind of looking at them on the same playing field?
It kind of gets back to your original point of when we were talking about the accountability charts, and that everything is like, it's always evolving, like it's a constant evolution, and like that's kind of, it's iterative, and so that's kind of always that's always a part of it. So how, How important, because you talked a little bit about the franchise. And so there's two franchises probably at play now. Is the gym
Yes.
that you opened, is that a franchise?
That's a franchise. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you have two franchises. You've got an EOS franchise and you've got the gym franchise. How important is it? Or let me start with this. Did you do any research? Of course you did research. Did you understand the core values of the gym franchise before you got in? And was that something that was important to you as you looked on that endeavor?
So, yes, we did. It's funny. You're like, did you do any research? I'm actually not a high fact finder, so it's a fair question to ask me.
I think I'm like a 9 on
we're like,
Fast
this one's fun. Let's go for it.
Yes. Yeah, that's me.
But no, so the gym, it's called Discover Strength, and it actually originated in Minnesota. And I was a long time client. I have been a client for about 8 years. And so I was intimately familiar and aware of, who they were as an organization, what their core values are, and just absolutely in love with them as an organization and what they do. And so the motivator really to open up a franchise was completely selfish. It was like, hey, that was back in Minnesota. We moved here to Utah. Nothing can replace like Discover Strength. And so that was really honestly the motivation for opening a franchise. But they actually run on EOS as well. And so there's this really fun synergy. They were more on like the early side of things, probably implemented about 15 years ago. I could be way off on that, but I know it's been quite a while. And so, they're an EOS organization. So there's such fun crossover in all of it.
Yeah. That story that you just told reminded me of something. So right now I am in Newport, Rhode Island, doing some fun stuff at the Naval War College, but I live in Seattle, and we live in Queen Anne, and there was this gym that opened up down the street from us called F45. And I started going, and it was like walking distance, and it was just so convenient. And I need somebody yelling at me. I'm in the military, and so I'm used to people like forcing me to work out. And so if I go to the gym, I'm like, this is boring, this is dumb. If I go to F45, I'm like, we're gonna come out sweating, and it's gonna be great. I get to Newport, and there's no F45. And I will tell you, for a split second, I thought about contacting them to open up a franchise. I wasn't going to be here long enough, but I understand your thoughts, because right now, when I'm looking at like where do I want to be geographically and where am I going to go, I always see if there's an F45 gym, and if there's not, I think in the back of my brain, I'll just open one. So I love that you did that.
Yeah. And so for you, now you can also check for Discover Strength and just try that out. See if you can settle for that.
I'll see if they have nothing out here in Newport, Rhode Island. It's I'm doing jiu-jitsu right now, and it's a great workout, but it's also incredibly painful because everybody is. I'm getting my butt whooped by like high schoolers at this point. I was rolling with a guy last week, and we got done, and like he just like twisted me up like a pretzel, and then I was like, "How old are you?" He was like, "I'm 17," and I was like, oh God. So anyhow, that's interesting.
That's
just a little bit on the franchises. Like what made you go? I understand EOS, and EOS is like, it's a framework, and it's something that's passionate and understand, and it just help other businesses. Do you actively look for franchises now, or is it just like, well, I find something that I like and we're just going to open it because we love it?
No, I've like never set out to be a franchise owner. I'm actually pretty entrepreneurial. And so being a part of a franchise is an interesting thing where it's like, I'm a creative. I love creating. And I'm actually this weird mix of visionary and integrator. Have a lot of ideas though. I have so many ideas of like how to improve things, grow things, all the things. So being in a franchise system can be really difficult when you're that person. Because you're supposed to run the play. And depending on what kind of system you're in, you have a lot more autonomy and freedom in some than others. And so, no, not looking for any more franchises necessarily, but these were two things that I just absolutely loved. I had experience with EOS. We implemented in the family business that I was in. I was there for 16 years, operated in EOS for about 7 of those years. And so that's why EOS, for me, it's like something that I had firsthand experience of just how incredible it is, how beneficial it is for an organization. And then, like I said, long time client of Discover Strength. I don't have a degree in, exercise science or any related field. My degree is in psychology. I would have never been a personal trainer or set out to open a gym, besides the fact that I was just completely selfish about wanting Discover Strength here in Utah.
We think very much alike, because I would have done the same thing. And because like once you find something that, like, I don't know, makes you feel great, and EOS is along that same lines as well, like helping other businesses, or like what it did for my brain is it just put everything into place, and it was easier for me to understand the issues, operate the business, prioritize, right people, right seat, all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, it reminds me of like the defragmentation for computers, like back in the 90s. Maybe there's still an option for that on Microsoft, but like, it like whatever the defrag was, it puts the computer back together. Like that's what EOS was for my brain.
Yeah.
And the way to be able to understand and look at business. And then opening the gym, I did that.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about it is there has been really incredible synergy, like I talked about, between the two. And we've really started recognizing this as an opportunity for us with our coaching business, where, as we've really started meeting so many business owners and entrepreneurs and getting in their life and understanding their challenges in life, it's like, it's business. So we can help them with EOS, right? Like, we can all improve on managing our business better. And so we have that tool. But as a business owner and entrepreneur, marriage is often a thing that just becomes challenging because business can really start taking over your life. And we love actually working with husband and wife teams. There's so much beauty in being able to work together as a couple, but that's even more challenging when it comes to trying to keep your marriage prioritized over being business partners together. And so we've dug into that a little bit more as of recent. And then often for business owners, like, they're neglecting their health. And so it's really fun then to have a tool to say, hey, if you're feeling lost and a little bit hopeless in this area, because so many people do, they've tried all the different gyms or diets or whatever, they're not happy with their health, and they're just kind of like, I don't know what's going to work. To have something that's been the solution for me for 8 years, and to say, like, you can trust this is incredibly effective. Like, this is a high quality service. Like, you can feel strong, you can feel healthy and do this thing. Like, it's just been so much fun. And so we actually have had a fair amount of our coaching clients that have become clients at the gym. And it's just this fun, like, space of like, hey, we're people who want to improve and grow, whether it's physically, mentally, in our business, in our marriage.
That's I was going to put the bow on that one, because as you were saying all of these things, I was like, holy crap. It's like a one-stop shop. It's like, well, I'm in business with my partner being like life partner, and and that's not working, and my business isn't working, and my health's going to crap. And you're like, boy, do I have some solutions for you.
Just come see me.
I could help you in all of those things.
Yes.
Where do you find, because like it sounds so specific, but it also sounds like there are a ton out there, and it's like where, are you joining the, I forget what it is, but like the local business thing, like where are you finding people that are in similar states?
I mean, that's the great question, Ryan. That's the question we're all asking, right? Where do we find our ideal target market? We're still in search of, like, the the treasure trove of these people. But really, like, we've done a lot of networking. So when we moved here to Utah, we knew no one. We had like a couple that lived here that we were good friends with, and that was it. And so we worked really hard on building up a community and a network and making good, solid connections with people. And so that has been through a lot of like networking groups, the chamber, BNI, we're a part of. We've done all of it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd say that's been a huge focus of ours. But with business development specifically, because I was never in like a sales role previous to being, really essentially in a sales role in all aspects of my life now. I just realized the importance of like going through life, not necessarily thinking like, how am I going to grow my business, but just being relational, just being you, just being in people's lives, helping them where you can, because then that's truly where they recognize, the value that you can offer them. And you can be in helping them in that way. And so that's just been another aspect, is like just being real people showing up to things. No matter where it is, like it could be, it's church. A lot of our connections and relationships have come through that, getting to know people in our neighborhood, like whatever it is. So, yeah.
That's I haven't read the book. It came like, and it's I know it's going to be like a 2-hour book, but I know enough about the book to know that I think it's called Go Giver. It's sitting right next to me, but I don't have the dust shield on it, which means it's just a blank red book. But everything you just said is what I understand that book is about, where it's like help first, provide value. Don't look at relationships like transactional, and like everything else just kind of takes care of itself. And that just becomes the focus, is like just put value into the world and create relationships.
I was just going to say, I think that is the way to go about it. It is challenging when you're just starting out a business. Like we meet so many smaller, like solopreneurs, people that are just kind of in the starting phase. And this is the challenge for everyone. Where do I find the people that I really want to work with? And it's scary. It's really scary in the beginning. I mean, you're risking a lot. You're putting everything, whether it's life savings, all of your time, all of your energy, effort into this thing. And it's really difficult to be like, if I give, I know it'll come back. And so there's this, I had to like just have a book going constantly to help me with keeping that abundance mindset for probably the last year. And you're going to maybe ask me what books, and I have terrible memory. So just don't. Maybe I can please later. But it's this pursuit constantly of just keeping that abundance mindset. I think that's just so huge in all of it.
I feel like that's a misconception out there of like, when people look at entrepreneurs, they're like, they got all their shit figured out. Like they know what they're doing. Like, look how confident they are. And like behind the scenes, because I'm going through similar stuff right now. So we just launched Talent Harbor a few months ago. We've done some placements and some other great things for businesses that are operating on EOS. But like I constantly have this in the back of my brain of like, is this going to work? And then like something will hit and you'll be like, oh my God, it's going to work. And then something doesn't. And like that never stops. Like was running a $100,000 company at one point, running a $50 million company, and now running a startup again. And like, it's just ups and downs and constant mind games with yourself. And you gotta kind of trick yourself into just believing it's all going to work.
You do. And you need a ton of encouragement, and you need a community, and you probably should have a coach as well. It really takes a village to to raise an entrepreneur. No, it's a really difficult stage to be in. And that is the trouble. Like you go to so many of these networking events and everybody really does feel like they have to, appear as though everything is going just swimmingly, and so you feel like you're the only one. And then you get into these one-on-ones or build a friendship and connection, and everyone is scared. and struggling through something. And it's like, oh man, could we have just been honest? Because asking for what you need is really the key to getting what you need as well. And when we feel like we can't ask because we have to appear like we have it all down, like that's unfortunate.
I remember whether it was Run for Your Lives and we were looking at the Tough Mudders and the Warrior Dashes. Like I remember Warrior Dash was run by a company called Red Frog Events. And like I would always see in the Wall Street or something else, like they had these amazing offices and we're like, God, they have it all figured out. Like, why can't we get our stuff together? Hunt to Killer, same. Like we would look at Cards Against Humanity, Exploding Kittens, things like that. And we're like, they have it all figured out. Like what's going on here? And the reality is like, then you start networking, you start becoming familiar with these people, you start getting a level of access to where you're like, oh, that's a shit show. Like you guys have it figured out just as much as we do right now.
Yes.
But for some reason, like we always think like the companies that like kind of are in our peripheral of like, what do they know that we don't? And the answer is nothing. Like we're all just here trying to figure this thing out.
It's so true.
I feel bad taking us all the way back to the beginning because like we just took like a leap. I'm trying to figure out like where we were on the implementation or the utilization of this in the family. But the one other thing that I did want to talk about was the scorecard. And this is all very selfish because I'm fascinated by how you implement and how you think through these things and how you do it as a family unit. Because at least for me personally, like I understand how this stuff is implemented in business, but what I'm trying to learn from you is and hopefully share with the audience is how you take these different aspects and you bring them in your personal life. And so how do you look at the scorecard when it comes to the family unit?
Yeah, so we haven't implemented a scorecard with the kids quite yet, but that is on the to-do list for the next quarter. Because as business grows and life gets more and more full, we're like, hey, we need them to really own certain things. So we're excited about that. But so far, our scorecard for our personal lives has been very much around what are we doing to really fill ourselves back up? That's really what it's all been surrounded with. And so that is our nutrition. So we track nutrition. Are we counting calories or following our eating regimen? I count calories. Jeff, I can't get him to do that. So that's okay. And exercise. We both love it. And even though we work in a gym, there's weeks where we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even prioritize that, So we make sure that we're training a certain amount of times every week and then going for runs, things like that. Don't think we're strange, but we've actually started making a goal to ground every morning. So getting your feet on the ground, for 15 minutes, that's being outside, being in the sun, being connected to the earth. And there's a lot of energy stuff that goes with that. But so there's just certain things where we talk a lot about with our coaching clients as well, but we have to hold ourselves accountable to it. We all get excited about looking forward to that vacation, right? That we have planned our 1 week or 2 week vacation out of the year. But so often we crash into those times and half the vacation is spent just trying to decompress and switch into family mode and being able to relax. And so we're really, really strong about hey, you need to have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly rhythms for refilling. You cannot just run all out for extended periods of time and think that you're not going to break something, whether it's your body or your marriage or relationships, whatever it is, something will break if you're not living in a balanced manner. And so that's it for us. Every morning we have a goal to reading our Bible, reading a good book, whatever it is. So our scorecard has been just keeping us on track with those types of disciplines.
Gotcha. I don't think you're crazy for 1 second with the grounding. Now, I don't know if you're talking about like shoes off and things like that, but my whole
Shoes
thing
off.
is, there it is. Like my whole thing for some strange reason is beaches. And so like when I'm hitting a certain like level of stress, right now I fortunately have a beach that's close by. But like I will literally have to go to find some sort of beach just to put my feet in the sand. And
Yes.
so I don't know what nature voodoo comes along with all of that, but there is something with, I don't know. It feels like a release. Now people are going to think we're both weird, but
I know.
but it's great.
It is scientific. I can't explain the science to you right now, but I have read a little bit about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So someone's been listening to this podcast and they are like, I need Ali to help me out with something. Cause that's hopefully the point of this is we share our stories and other things with the world and it creates a magnet and people come and seek us out. And so somebody has listened to this, hopefully in the Utah area, but I'm sure you travel as well if it's the right client. And they're like, well, how do I get a hold of Ali? How would they find you?
Oh, they're going to email me, Ryan. Or they're going to call me because I am old school. I am so old school. I don't do a lot of social media. I'm on it, but it's not the best way to find me or find out anything about me. I don't spend a lot of time with that. So I am an analog, like give me a call, text me. Email me. We'll set up a time. The best thing to do. I love meeting people. I just want to like schedule a phone call, schedule a chat. Like let's connect and really find out what your best next step is.
Got it. And I'll make sure that your email is in the show notes for this. I also like everybody I know has Instagram, Facebook, and all these other like things. Like I've got LinkedIn and that's it. And people think I'm so strange when they're like, oh, like check out this Insta reel or something like that. And like I can't even log in and see it because you got to have an account. And so I just get these dead links that go nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's no time for that. All right. Last question. If you could have coffee with any EOS implementer, who would it be?
Oh, goodness. Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, who came to my mind right away is Sue Hawks, which is kind of funny. She was actually our professional like EOS implementer that helped us implement with our family business. And I have chatted with her since becoming an implementer. She's got a really full practice. She's a busy woman. She's incredibly successful. What I think would be so interesting now is like understanding from an implementer's perspective, like now getting some of her thoughts on what it was like to work with us as clients. I don't know. Like, I think it would be like interesting to hear from her perspective now, me having a different perspective on the process of working with our family and just even like personalities and dynamics. And I don't know. I think it'd be really fun.
Last time you and I talked, you had mentioned that you were either working on or already recording or starting or launching a podcast, right?
Yes.
How amazing would that interview be? Like that would be some like that would be incredible. Like I would listen to that because there's so many interesting dynamics that are happening there. Like you're learning about yourself and how you were, but the implementers are like learning tactics and insights, and then you are now comparing like how you kind of see the world in your position versus how she saw it. That would make it for a really great episode.
That's such a good idea. Maybe we should have you like proctor that episode.
I'm happy to do it. And that's I get one idea or one good idea a year, and you just took it. So now I'm all out. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for coming on and sharing kind of how you've taken these EOS principles and putting or implemented into your own life. I know when you and I had initially talked on the discovery call a few weeks ago, like that was something that I was deeply interested in, and I think the listeners and everybody's searching for how to add more structure, like how to achieve what they want to achieve without coming off course. And so the lessons and the things that you do that you share today, I think will be incredibly helpful. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor, honestly, to be able to talk about my experience and share it with others. So thank you.
Confessions of an Implementer is brought to you by Talent Harbor. To find out more about Talent Harbor and our fractional services and talent search solutions for businesses, visit talentharbor.com. And then make sure to search for Confessions of an Implementer in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And on behalf of the team here at Talent Harbor, thanks for listening.